So you may be asking yourself, well, Marcus, how can I stop comparing myself to other people? And at a subconscious level, we do this with everyone we come across, especially people that are our age. We always look at their finances, we look at their relationships, right? We look at their health, where are they at compared to ours? And it doesn't help at this day and age. You have social media, you have TV. It's constantly bombarding you with different things, telling you essentially that you're not good enough. And so when you got these constant feeds coming in, you start believing the fact that, man, I just feel like garbage about myself. Like I have to go buy the latest car, go buy the latest phone, or, maybe I need to get the latest fashion. And ultimately what it is you're constantly playing this game because you feel like you're being left behind and comparing yourselves to those things that you don't have. And it can be extremely hard, especially if you have peers of yours that perhaps you guys graduated at the same time, and you go back and you look to see what they're at in their life, and you hope that you are doing better in your life, right? In all those categories, or at least the majority of them. But how can you actually stop comparing yourself to others? And this is something that is extremely hard because, like I said, it's something that we do subconsciously. But if we can correct it and allow ourselves to find and realize that, hey, you know what, why am I comparing myself to this person? It doesn't matter where they're at in their life. Yes, it may make me feel good for a second, but ultimately, where am I at in my life? What can I be doing in my life to make my life better? And when you think about that, it's hard, again, because you are looking at your peers. Perhaps there's something in your past that you can't let go, and something you may need to actually face as to why you feel like you perhaps don't deserve these things, or perhaps you feel like you can't achieve these things. And that can make it extremely difficult. So instead of facing those fears, what we'll do is we'll go to social media, or we'll go to TV to essentially help alleviate some of that, right? Stop our thinking process as opposed to working on that thinking process and then getting, again, bombarded with all this negativity. But what we can do is try to capture those thoughts and ideas when they start happening. When we start thinking that, man, I'm just not good enough, and I will never achieve the way that person did. When in fact, when we realize that when you look at social media, these are only the good moments. They don't show you any of the bad moments. And believe me, there's always bad moments in with those good moments. It always comes in cycles. Like I myself, I've had some really great moments in my life. And I've also had some really bad moments in my life. But you don't take pictures of the bad moments, and you don't tell people about those other bad moments. You only share the good moments, and that's ultimately how you're going to stop comparing yourself to other people, is by realizing that, hey, you know what? I need to start looking at myself and focusing on myself. And again, this is going to be a constant struggle because you're going to be looking at all these different things. And so it's best to shut off these other sources, right? And just focus on yourself. And essentially remove that old story. And the best example I can give of this is, perhaps you were an all-star athlete, back in high school. But is that who you are today? You're only the type of person that you are with the actions that you do today, not what you did in the past, right? We were all something in the past, but that doesn't essentially make who you are today. Right? Maybe back in the day, maybe you're a cross-country runner, you could run 12 miles at some ridiculous pace, right? And today you try to run out and you could barely run a mile at, in 30 minutes, right? You're not the same person anymore. And so you can't tie yourself to those things in the past. You got to rip yourself away from that and realize that I'm only as good as I am today. Who am I today? What am I doing today to improve my life? And you realize that once you start focusing on that stuff, you tend to forget about the other people. Yes, you'll still come across people and you'll still compare, but again, you'll make yourself aware that, hey, that's great that they're doing that. But I've let go of who I was. concentrating on what I want, and I'm focusing on that and executing on that. And eventually, once I continue to do that and continue this process, I will have more than what I could even dream of, right? So it's important to find ultimately what the root of the problem is, which is probably something in your past making you believe that you can't achieve any of these things around the people that are around you. And so you settle with a lot of stuff. And it's breaking out of that being settled and being okay with stuff, that we stop comparing ourselves because we're excited about those new things, those new possibilities that are essentially being introduced in our life, because we're not tied to that old story of what we were. And we start working towards what we want to be. And this goes for anybody, right? It doesn't matter what age you are. Maybe you're just starting out in life, and so you really haven't experienced much in life, or maybe you are later in life, like myself, or maybe even a little bit older, and you are trying to do something different with your life. It's never too late until you give up, until you throw in the towel. Essentially, you need to keep pushing forward and realize that once that focus is focused on something else, instead of just mindlessly letting these other feeds come into your life and telling you about how you're not good enough, you stop comparing. Because when you get that negative feed that's telling you you're not good enough, all you look for, all you nitpick, is to find something that you're a little bit better at than somebody else, as opposed to just focusing on yourself and developing yourself, right? And this is a big thing why I love talking about curiosity. And a lot of times, people will talk about, I'm losing motivation, I don't know how to stop comparing myself. And the thing is you again need to look at yourself. What are you curious about? And this is something that I think is so important, because it's led me down so many different things. It's like pulling that string and finding those things that you're curious about, that you've always wanted to do, or perhaps you just read the newspaper or a book or listen to a podcast and you're like, man, that sounds really interesting. And so you start diving into it a little bit and you start getting excited. You find that excitement. And that's what drives you to pursue new things, gets new perspectives, and then you forget about that old you, right? You forget about that old story. You forget about comparing yourselves with other people, because you have this new journey on where you want to go, because you read that thing or you heard about this thing and you followed up on it, and you realize that you can find happiness, you can find a new lifestyle, new perspective. Things change dramatically because you are, again, educating yourself on new things. This is why educating yourself on new possibilities, just being curious, giving yourself that time to be curious about something and exploring it, or open up new avenues. Then, you fight against depression, you fight against all these other things, you get more confidence, and you, again, much more excited. You're bringing happiness and joy into your life because you found your path. Even if you haven't found your path, you're excited about where it's going, because you don't know what the possibilities. You realize that, man, there is more possibility out there than I actually realized. Then this leads us back to the example. You see somebody else and you're like, you know what? Good for them, right? Maybe they're doing better in X, Y, and Z, but I don't know where I'm going, but I'm excited about it. And I'm ready to go. Then there is no more comparing. You're actually saying, good job for you. Good job on the things you're trying to achieve. I'm excited for you. And I'm excited for myself, and I'm excited to get this journey going. So I hope this helps you guys, and I hope you guys can find that thing that really drives you. And you realize when you find that, you stop comparing yourself. Maybe it's a little bit of change in environment to help you get there, so you can start feeding that positive energy with yourself, finding that good, wholehearted lifestyle that you've always wanted, and go out there and get it.